Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. So today's video I'm going to talk about Saturn transit in Pisces and its impact on Virgo rising. Anybody with a Virgo rising, Virgo Ascendant, Virgo Lagna or Moon in Virgo. And this video is applicable for all of them. So guys, I've shared my email address and I've shared my WhatsApp details in the description of this video. Anyone wants to connect with me for a reading of their chart, you can connect with me on the WhatsApp or on the email. So this transit happened on the 29th of March 2025 when Saturn moved into Pisces. So before I talk about what is coming your way in the next 2.5 years, let me just give you a quick overview around what happened 2.5 years before 29th of March. So during then Saturn was transiting in your 6th house. So I mean, Saturn is a malefic planet and 6th house is a malefic house. So good, you got good results from the 6th house. So which means, you were good with competition. You were good with competition at your work, at your profession, at your business. You were able to overpower the competitors. Okay. You were good with your enemies. you were able to overpower your enemies, in the last 2.5 years. So, I mean, the daily work, the daily schedule, okay, the daily routine was good during then. Okay, you were able to manage your debts very well. Okay, now, so what happened was, in terms of all these areas, it was good. Like in terms of the placement. However, the aspects of Saturn were not good. Those aspects were on the house of Mars as well as on the house of Sun. And both have enmity with Saturn, which means Saturn aspect was on your 8th house, and that too a debilitated aspect, and 6th house is the house of your diseases. Okay, which means 8th house is the house of sudden events, which means all the diseases were suddenly discovered. Okay, the illnesses were discovered, the the sickness was discovered, and then you had to spend money, you had to make expenditure in order to cure that disease, because Saturn from the 8th house, Saturn gives longevity. So you were spending money, spending money in order to cure those diseases. So they were like sudden diseases you had seen in the last 2.5 years. And there was expenditures also. So the business trips you made, the short-term business trips you made, the short-term travel, they were not fruitful. You didn't have good relations with your siblings. You didn't have good relations with your neighbors. So in terms of placement, it was good. However, the aspects were not at all good in the last 2.5 years. Now, let's talk about, what is coming your way in the next 2.5 years. Okay, so this is going to be an excellent transit for you guys. So I would request you to, watch this video till the end. Because, this could give you like a lot of clues around, what areas of your life are now getting affected with this particular movement of Saturn. So for Virgo rising, Saturn lords 2 houses, the 5th house and the 6th house. And Saturn now is transiting in your 7th house. So 7th house in the Kal Purush, Saturn gets exalted in the 7th house. So which means this is an excellent position for Saturn. This is an excellent placement for Saturn. Okay, 7th house, if Saturn comes in the 7th house, it makes an extremely good business person. So it's very good around business. Okay, 7th house is the house of your marriage. 7th house is the house of your business, partnership business. Which means you would have good relations with your spouse for the next 2.5 years. If there were some disagreements, if there were some, any kind of issues, you would see everything would get resolved. So good relationship with your spouse, good relationship with your business partners. Okay, this is also seen from here. Now, now 5th house has 5th house is the house of your romantic relationships, which means that people, those who are, single, okay, or people, those who are into a romantic relationship, they would see that, and it's like people who are into having an affair since a long period of time, they would see that affair, that romantic relationship would get converted into a marriage. And guys, Saturn is about, well, discipline, about, respect around, hard work. So there would be a long term commitment in terms of marriage. So now sixth house is the house of any kind of court cases. So if there is any kind of, documents which are incomplete around the business partnership, so anything which is, on just going on the verbal basis and not on, legal papers, in the next 2.5 years, you would see that thing would also come into legal documents, so that everything would be, like legally documented. Now, let's talk about the aspects. So Saturn, first aspect would be on your ninth house. So what are the areas ninth house signifies? Ninth house is a very, very important house. It is the house of your luck. It is the house of your higher learning. It is the house of long-term travel. It is the house of your mentor. Okay. So what you would see is that for business, you would go for traveling, traveling for conferences, for meetings. You would go for a long-term travel with your spouse. Okay. Now, the next thing is that you would be you would go for a higher learning around your business. You would go for upskilling yourself. You may also, if you're a student, then you may go for higher learning. Like whatever level you are, you may go for a level above that in terms of, higher education. Now, the next thing is that you would develop a very unique interest, a very, deep interest spiritually. And during this time, guys, we all know, like, what is the importance of mentor these days. So, during this time, you would get a great mentor. And, even one suggestion from that mentor can, change the life. So, why am I saying it's a beautiful aspect? Because, this particular aspect, Saturn is aspecting the best friend of Saturn, which is Venus. Saturn has a very good relationship with Venus. So beautiful time in terms of your luck. Like you would see that luck would help in your romantic relationships getting converted into your marriage. Your luck would help you in expanding your business. Your luck would help you in your marriage also. So beautiful times in terms of, all these areas. Now, next aspect would be on your ascendant. And that too, an aspect on Saturn's best friend again, Mercury. So, which means, you would command a lot of respect because, there would be a lot of discipline. There would be a lot of, hardworking person you would become in the next 2.5 years. So, guys, one thing I would like to add here, like Saturn is the planet which promotes longevity. And because this is your own body, this is your own ascendant. So please take special care of your health. Please take special care of your body, health in terms of, your food or, your exercise. Because Saturn would definitely expect you that, you should take care of yourself in order to be able to live long and to be able to live healthier. Now, the next aspect, would be a neutral aspect, which is on the house of your fourth house, which is fourth house is the home where you live, your vehicles, your emotional happiness, the house of your mother. So here you would see that you would there's a probability you would buy a new house, or you would buy a new home. You would go for renovation. You would go for home furnishing. Okay, and we all know like what is the importance of buying a house. Now, this is a beautiful time in terms of buying a house, I would say, because even Jupiter has an aspect on its own house, and plus because it has a connection with the sixth, which means you would easily get the debt. So, and we all know like how important, among all the asset classes, this comes at the top most. So, or our at least 20 to 25% of our income goes in rent. So, excellent time if you're planning to buy a house. Beautiful time, go for it. Now, the second thing is you would buy a new vehicle in the next 2.5 years. Your emotional, health would be good. The health of your mother would be good. You would get a lot of support from your mother. So, I mean, it's a beautiful transit, guys. You know why? Because it is aspecting your, your house of luck. It is aspecting your own body. It is aspecting the home where you live. And Saturn has a character trait. Like the place where it sits, it gives expansion. However, the place it aspects, it produces problems here. This time, in the next 2.5 years, the aspects are all on the friendly houses. So beautiful times in terms of, like in the next 2.5 years. So now let's talk about who gets this impact. So Virgo people passing through Saturn times, Saturn Mahadasha, Saturn Antardasha, 100% impact you would see. Virgo people who are not passing through with Saturn times, even they would see a great degree of this impact, because understand Saturn is is a planet which transits after every 2.5 years. It's a long period of time. So technically, all Virgo people, would see the impact on all these areas. So, like the only condition I would say here is that what is the position of Saturn in the natal chart, as well as what Mahadashas you are passing through with, like the Mahadashas or Antardashas. That needs to be determined. Otherwise, it's a beautiful time, guys. So that's mostly what I wanted to talk about this video. So if you like this video, guys, I would request you to subscribe my channel, to press the bell notification, and to also write a comment, because your comment really validates my effort. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks for your time, and you have a great evening. Thank you.